the technology of participation. Everybody wants participation, but how do you get it?
How can you get a team to work together? And when you get them working together, how do you get them to move forward together? The technology of participation turns the diversity of a group into its greatest gift and generates decisions and action that everyone can agree with. The technology of participation, or ToP methods, developed by the Institute of Cultural Affairs, have been used in thousands of companies, organizations, and communities on every continent over a period of 25 years. With ToP methods, the greater the number of stakeholders that are involved in the process, the more creativity and motivation will be generated, and the more effective and long-lasting the results will be. This video describes the theory and use of the ToP-focused conversation method, which is the foundation for all ToP planning technologies, and the ToP workshop method, which is a basic tool for any group facilitator. The ToP-focused conversation method is designed to improve communication, promote trust, forge team spirit, and enhance creativity. This method is the most versatile of the technology of participation and can be used in almost any situation. We call the focused conversation method a life method because it is based on a pattern of thinking that we all use when we think clearly. By recognizing this basic pattern of thinking, you will have an important tool which can help you in your individual work, in one-on-one relations, and in group settings. An easy way to illustrate this pattern of thinking is from a simple everyday example. Suppose that you are walking along and suddenly someone throws something to you. You are faced with a decision. Will you catch it or will you step aside? You have only a brief moment to decide, but several levels of thinking are put into play to make the decision. The first is the objective level. On the objective level, you simply perceive the facts. An object is in the air. It's coming straight at you. It looks heavy. Bob threw it. The second is the reflective level. You associate your perceptions with previous experience and experience emotions. You feel shocked and slightly threatened. You were once hurt by a flying object when you were young. You like Bob, however, who is a good friend who would never hurt you. You are somewhat confused. The third is the interpretive level. At this level, you interpret the significance of what is happening. The object is probably a baton. You think you could probably catch it. You think that by catching it, you might impress Bob. The fourth is the decisional level. At this level, you decide what you're going to do and begin to act on your decision. In this case, you decide to catch the object. The four levels of thinking can occur almost unconsciously when a quick decision is demanded, like catching a thrown object, or can occur over a long period of time for other decisions. This pattern of thinking is constantly occurring in everyday life. At the first level of this pattern of thinking is the basic stuff of life, the objective facts, what you see, hear, or perceive in many other ways. This level of reality is what you perceive through your senses. However, you constantly reflect on your perceived reality. You make associations between this and other things which have happened to you or which you imagine. You have a gut-level emotional or reflective response to the perceived reality. There is another reflection, however, as you begin to interpret both the objective reality and your reflective response. At this interpretive level, you give a meaning or value to the experience. You may decide that the implication for you is extremely great, or perhaps it is insignificant. Finally, the perceived reality, your reflective response, and your interpretation of its meaning become the object of a decision. The decision may be to do nothing, or it may be to take some action now or in the future. This entire process can occur in a split second, like when a dog barks at you, or over a period of an hour when you're reviewing a financial statement, or over several months when you have a new job with little guidance on what to expect. But each level can affect the final decision. In the example of the object thrown to you, if you do not associate with Bob as a good friend, you might not try to catch the object. Or if you interpret from the size and speed that it is too heavy, you also might not try. Let's look at another example of these 4 levels of the thought process. Imagine that your accounting section has, unknown to you, created a new chart showing a downturn in sales and puts it on a wall in a place where you often walk by. You stroll by unaware of anything until suddenly you look up and see a big sales chart with a plummeting arrow. The first level is simply an objective one of perception. The fact of plummeting sales makes itself evident. Next comes your reflective gut-level response. You're indignant that someone put the chart there. Heads will roll. You're angry with your colleague Bob, who didn't send the information about your big sale to the accounting department. You're suddenly gripped by a stomach-turning fear. Didn't Louise just about lose her job last week? But then you stop to actually interpret the meaning of the chart. Perhaps it wasn't put there for your personal benefit, but for someone else's. Maybe the top brass are simply trying to show you you're constantly behind in sending in your sales reports. Maybe it's Helen playing a practical joke. Then you stop and put all the pieces together, the chart, your response, and your interpretation of it, and decide what you're going to do about it. I'll get those reports in right away and just show them who's the best. Since everybody's sales are down, I'll just work harder and go after that promotion I really deserve. Let's consider for a moment some of the interactions that occur between 2 people. You ask Helen about the results of a meeting you couldn't attend, and she tells you that a decision was made to slash a department and that she has already started thinking about implementing it. Helen has told you only about the decisional level, and you are probably left scratching your head, what's going on? Perhaps you bump into Bob first and ask him about the meeting. He gives you a detailed but boring account of who said what. He's telling you about the objective level, and you are probably left anxious to know what really happened. When you ask Louise about the meeting, she responds that she's having a hard time talking about it because she's so upset about the whole thing. She says everybody was angry and it reminded her of that terrible last job that she had. You get completely caught up in her emotion, but you still don't know what happened. One of the major benefits of the focused conversation method is the time and money that can be saved in decision-making when hidden and unconscious factors are brought out into the open. If you recognize how the 4 levels of the thinking process work in other people, you can help unblock the decision-making process. Also, if you are aware of the objective, reflective, interpretive, and decisional levels of thinking, you will be less subject to manipulation by others. For example, a minor straightforward policy change can be stalled indefinitely by members of a committee who have some discomfort with the policy. If you can find out what the discomfort is, you might be able to suggest acceptable changes to the policy. At the objective level, you want to be sure that all members have read and understood the language used in the suggested policy change. A couple of words misunderstood might be the cause of the problem. At the reflective level, you want to find out if this policy has reminded them of some other experience in the past, negative, positive, painful, or otherwise. A negative or painful association could be the cause of the block. At the interpretive level, you want to find out if they have considered the importance and impact of the policy change, if it is implemented and if it is not. At the decisional level, you want to find out what changes they want to make to the policy. You can help the entire team experience the benefits of participation by using the focused conversation method in a group setting. When a group of people sit around the planning table, they usually share information and decide how to act on it. But the way in which the information is shared is a vital part of the decision-making process. The focused conversation method is designed to allow everyone to participate in the decision-making so that you get the best follow-up action with the greatest commitment and with the least confusion in a short time. Let's look at what usually happens in a traditional planning group when the thinking process is short-circuited, going from information directly to decision. The group leader gives some information and then asks what everyone thinks should be done. Helen hears the information and immediately processes it to the decision level, telling everyone else her decision about what she thinks should be done. She will likely want everyone else to decide quickly as well, and might spend the entire meeting defending or revising her decision. Bob, on the other hand, is still at the objective level, stalled while trying to piece together some basic information that he really fully doesn't understand. Louise is at the reflective level, remembering the discomfort she felt at the last meeting of this kind. She just can't seem to get past the feeling of being blamed for the situation. You are still sitting there at the third level, trying to get everyone else to understand the serious implications of the information before moving on to what to do about it. Everyone is caught up at a different level of the thinking process. To try to force a decision at this stage of thinking will cause anger and disenchantment all around. The meeting could turn out to be a fiasco with everyone on a different track, some ready to get out there and implement, some angry because of misunderstandings, some others blaming the boss for not having a good planning process for resolving the situation. The top-focused conversation method could lead to a more productive meeting. First, the participants are asked to focus their attention on the objective level of information. What specific parts of the information do they remember? What parts are not clear? At this point, Bob's problems could have been cleared up. When all participants have said that they understood the actual contents of the information, they are asked to focus on the reflective level. Does this information remind them of similar situations in the past? Does anything in the report make them uncomfortable, or perhaps breathe a sigh of relief? At this level, Louise would get a chance to get her difficulty out in the open and dealt with. When the group turns to focus on the interpretive level, questions could be asked like, what is the importance of this information, or what implications does it have? You would get your chance to explain the vital points you wanted to make. When everyone has had their say, the group can then focus on the decisional level. The question could be, what do we need to do? Or what action should we take? By this time, everyone will be open for Helen's suggestions on what should be done, and they may even have some constructive suggestions of their own. Even if you are unaware of the thinking process going on in the group, the focused conversation method can help, because it will move the group along in a natural progression of thinking and will bring out into the open things that have to be dealt with in order to make a decision and to act. There are many occasions to use the focused conversation method. A team reflection at the end of a seminar is an excellent place to use the method. You could ask the following questions, waiting for several answers between questions. What phrases do you remember from the seminar? What was the high point of the seminar? What was the low point? What insight did you take from the seminar? How will you use next week what you learned at the seminar? Another place to use the focused conversation method would be in evaluating a new policy statement. After reading the statement together as a team, you could ask these questions, waiting for answers in between. What words caught your attention? What situations do these points remind you of? What are the implications for our division? What additions or deletions do we need to make in the policy statement? The top-focused conversation method is designed to improve communication, promote trust, forge team spirit, and enhance creativity. It's the most versatile method of the technology of participation and can be used in almost any situation. A second important application of the technology of participation is in workshop settings. The TOP workshop method moves the team to action by using the group's full creativity and by building consensus. The TOP workshop method has 5 parts: context, brainstorm, organize, name, and evaluate. After an appropriate context has been given, the remaining 4 steps are equivalent to objective, reflective, interpretive, and decisional in a group setting. The basic principle is to take the entire team through the 4 levels in response to a focus question, which is the object of the workshop. A 4-part flow chart of the process illustrates the process. At the objective level, a brainstorm of ideas is generated in response to the focus question. At the reflective level, the information is funneled through the group facilitator and organized into clusters of associated information. At the interpretive level, the team discusses and names the significance of each cluster of data, giving titles to each group. At the decisional level, the team evaluates the relative importance of each group and decides the next step. As an example of this basic workshop method, let's face our team with the problem of coming up with an advertising campaign and use the ToP workshop method as the process during the meeting. You can lead the meeting. After giving an appropriate context on the reason for the meeting, you ask a single focus question to the group. What do we need for an advertising campaign? The first thing you do is get your team to brainstorm a list of ideas and write each and every idea up on the blackboard or flip chart. At the objective level, you never argue with anyone or tell them that their idea is no good. You simply write up whatever they say. In this sample, we've stopped after only 10 ideas, but could have gone on to 50 or more. The second or reflective level requires that you get the team to find associations between the ideas. The easiest way to do this is to mark a symbol beside items on the list which are similar in some way, starting from the top. Bob tells you that a jingle is similar to a theme song or tune. Helen says that a celebrity is similar to getting endorsements. Someone mentions that having a symbol is similar to having an image that represents the qualities of the product. Finally, Louise takes a risk and says that a slogan is like having a slice of life drama. And Bob adds that these are both similar to having a storyline. Since there is a general agreement about these types of similarities, it's time to move on to the third or interpretive level of the workshop. Here, you want to get the team to name the meaning behind the little groups of data. You read aloud the data marked with a cross. Someone says that the real importance of these items in an advertising campaign is having music that stays with you long after the ad is over. Louise says that the circles are really about having credibility factors, and everyone agrees. Someone else mentions that the boxes in a TV and poster advertising campaign has to do with creating memorable visual images. And everyone agrees that rather than having a fantasy ad, what we really need is a slice of real life on which to base the advertising campaign. The team has agreed to the basics for an advertising campaign, and the next step is to decide which one of the 4 items they want to work on next. The meeting is adjourned with the team knowing what it is supposed to do and feeling good about having achieved a real consensus. Some people who have attended only one ICA planning session refer to it as the card-on-the-wall method. This is because the ToP workshop method is visually designed in a special way to maximize participation by using cards on the wall. In many traditional planning sessions, everyone sits around a table and ideas are discussed one by one. This inevitably means that an idea will be linked to the person who mentions it. We find that this creates a handicap in participative planning, because every idea will have linked to it an emotional charge from the person who gave it, and other members of the team may upgrade or degrade the idea depending on who gave it, instead of thinking about the point entirely on its own merit. This has nothing to do with a lack of professionalism. It is simply the reflective level at work, people making associations between the people and the idea. We find it much better to ask everyone to write their brainstorm ideas on cards and fasten them all up on the wall. In this way, attention is focused on the objective level data, without the intervening personalities. The group facilitator up front must work hard to ensure that his or her own personality does not cloud up the meaning of the data. Since it may be difficult to imagine how to convene a workshop using the 4 levels of the focused discussion method and cards on a wall at the same time, here is a short simulated ToP workshop. The facilitator gives a context for the whole workshop and asks the focus question. The posing of a relevant and on-target focus question will, to a large degree, determine the success of the workshop. Next, each participant brainstorms answers to the focus question and writes the answers on cards. During the corporate brainstorm, some of these cards are stuck on the front wall of the workshop room, making sure that the answers are read out loud and that cards are visible to everyone. The facilitator then asks the team to look for associations and similarities between items and moves those cards closer together. The process of organizing the brainstorm has begun, and at some point the facilitator may use symbols to represent clumps, but only for ease of reference. After the organizing phase is complete, the facilitator asks the group to discuss each cluster in turn and to give a title to the cluster. This is usually a time-consuming but productive and satisfying step in the workshop. After each cluster of data has been discussed and the naming process is complete, the team evaluates the importance of acting on each cluster and makes decisions on what should be done with each cluster and who should do it and when. The team has moved into action and important decisions have been made. At this point, it is often helpful to create a chart that holds all of the insights of the team and reminds everyone of the follow-up action. The ToP workshop method can be used in just about any situation where a team of people needs a fast way to get consensus and results. Many more applications and methods of the technology of participation can be found in the book Winning Through Participation by Laura Spencer, published by Kendall Hunt and available from any ICA office. For those who want formal training in ToP methods, a whole series of training programs are available from your local ICA office. These courses will help you become a more effective facilitator and will benefit any team or group that needs to work together. If you need an outside facilitator to work with your group, ICA can provide you with professional and expert facilitators who will help your team create action plans in 2 days with full participation and with full consensus.